Mary Brigid McManamon is a professor of law. She joins me now live from Philadelphia with a look at how impeachments are perceived globally. Thank you for joining us. Walk us through the impeachment trial in Brazil. Is it a complicated process for impeaching and removing a president from office?
Well, it seems to be pretty comparable to what most countries do who have the impeachment process. It's two steps. And it's interesting because, as your previous guest said, that it was often very political. And so generally governments have two parts to the process, where one part of the government starts the process and then the other part of the government continues with it. And that's what Brazil does.
And does the president get a good shot at defending herself in this case?
It seems as if she's going to, unlike, for example, the problem they had in Paraguay a few years ago where the president wasn't allowed to defend himself and was impeached after a very short trial.
It's interesting, one newspaper in Brazil highlighted the irony in the country. The only two economists to serve as president in Brazil were the only ones impeached for economic failures. Talk to us about the other impeachment proceeding back in 1992. Is there anything we can gain from looking at that in terms of what might apply to this case today?
I can't draw a parallel between that one and this one. The political situation was very different, so I'm not sure if I can give you something on that.
Talk to us about impeachments across the globe. How often do we see them, and where are they common, would you say?
It's very interesting. Since, I would say, President Clinton's impeachment in 1998, there's been a real spate of them. In this century, there have been about a half a dozen, and it's all over the place. They've been in Latin America, in Europe, in Asia. Even this year, they attempted to impeach President Zuma in South Africa.
Can you talk to me about the distinction? Because it's interesting here in the United States, there's been two presidents who've been impeached. They've both been acquitted. But I was reading today in a newspaper article that in Brazil, it's not really considered an impeachment unless you're removed from office. Is there a major distinction in how impeachments are perceived from country to country?
I would say that difference is really a semantic one. As far as I can tell, all the impeachments that I've looked into have been ones where first there's a charge brought and then there's a trial or referendum. And in the United States, the first step is called the impeachment and the second is trial, and you have conviction or acquittal. Whereas in Brazil, the first step of the charge being brought is not called the impeachment. So I don't think it's really a matter of degree or difference, but rather just semantics.
Can you talk to us about what's going on in Venezuela with Nicolas Maduro? There's the recall effort there. How is that different from what we're seeing in Brazil?
Well, the thing is that the difference is in who's bringing the proceedings, whether it's through the legislative process and the Constitution or whether it's through the people themselves. And it's very interesting that a number of countries differentiate between that. Sometimes they have the people take care of it, and sometimes just the legislature.
Can you talk to us about why countries impeach? What are the objectives? Is it different in each country?
Yeah, I think every situation is unique. Many of the documents talk about whether or not the person who's in charge has been corrupt or has violated their oath of office or their constitution. Some specify various crimes. So it depends on what is considered so great that the head of state who has been, publicly elected is to be removed.
It's interesting, you're a professor of law. You can look at a lot of different aspects of law. What piqued your interest in studying impeachments?
Well, I love teaching and studying checks and balances and the way that we divide government so that we don't have corruption. And when things come to a head, and of course, in my own lifetime, I've been through two here in the United States. The first with the beginnings of the impeachment with President Nixon, then of course with President Clinton. And to see democracy attempting to stop corruption.
Interesting. Mary Brigid McManamon joining us from Philadelphia. Thanks so much.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, cctv-america.com.